So, what if I told you that one of the most important blueprints for the US Constitution wasn't found in some dusty book from ancient Greece or Europe, but was already right here, thriving on American soil for centuries? Well, today we're diving into an incredible and often overlooked story: the influence of the Great Law of the Iroquois Confederacy on American democracy. You know, when we think about the birth of the US government, we usually picture the founding fathers debating philosophies from halfway across the world. But what if that's only part of the story? What if there was a powerful, working model of democracy right in their own backyard that we just don't talk about enough? Of course, we all know the usual answers we learn in school. We're pointed across the Atlantic, right? We hear about the democratic ideals from ancient Greece, the structure of the Roman Republic, and all those big ideas from the European Enlightenment. And look, those influences are absolutely real. But they don't give us the whole picture, not even close. What if there was this living, breathing example of a federal republic, a real union of nations, that had been around for hundreds of years before 1776? A model that the Founding Fathers didn't just read about in a book, but could actually see and even talk to. And that's where this story gets really interesting. We're talking about an indigenous system of government, the Iroquois League, and its incredible constitution, the Great Law of Peace.
Okay, so let's get into it. What exactly was this model? We're talking about the Iroquois League, or as they're more accurately known, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. That means the people of the Longhouse. And their foundational document was called the Great Law of Peace.
Now, the Great Law of Peace was so much more than a simple treaty. It was a seriously complex constitution, passed down orally through generations, that built a government all about balance, justice, and, the well-being of its people.
And this was no small-time operation. The League united 6 completely distinct nations: the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, the Seneca, and later on, the Tuscarora. The real genius of it was that each nation got to keep its own local government and its own identity, but they were all part of this bigger, unified whole. And get this, it worked, and it worked well, for centuries before America was even a thing. So, you're probably wondering, how does this actually connect to the US Constitution? Well, it turns out key figures like Benjamin Franklin knew all about the Iroquois. He actually met with their leaders, he sat in on their councils, and he wrote about how impressive their government was. The founders didn't have to guess what a federal republic might look like. They could see one right there in front of them. I mean, just look at this comparison. It's pretty mind-blowing, right? On one side, you've got 6 nations united under a grand council, but each with its own local control. On the other, you've got 13 states united under a federal government, each with states' rights. That's the core idea of federalism. The Iroquois League proved that this tricky balance between a central government and local power wasn't just a theory. It could be an incredible source of strength. We've all heard about the system of checks and balances, right? The legislative, executive, and judicial branches all keeping each other from getting too powerful. It's a cornerstone of American government. But the Iroquois system had something extra. It suggests there's a way to think about checks and balances that goes even deeper. It wasn't just about different parts of the government watching each other. There was this whole other critical layer of accountability. And that layer, it came directly from the people, and specifically from the clan mothers. Just try to picture this. A council of elder women held the power to not only choose the male chiefs, but to kick them out of office, a process they called dehorning if those chiefs ever failed to do their duty. That's not just a check from another branch of government. That's a check directly from the community, ensuring leaders never forgot who they served. Now, this is way more than just a cool history lesson. The ideas behind the Great Law of Peace have some serious wisdom that feels incredibly relevant for all the stuff we're dealing with today. I mean, let's be real, we live in a time of pretty intense political division. So much of it feels like it's just about winning by 1 vote, and that's it. But the Iroquois model gives us a totally different way to think. Their Grand Council operated on consensus. What that means is they prioritized really deep discussions and compromise to find a solution that pretty much everyone could get behind. It's a powerful lesson that real, lasting stability comes from building agreement, not just from winning a fight. And that leads to another huge question that the Great Law makes us ask ourselves. What's a leader supposed to be? Is it about gaining power for yourself, or is it something totally different?
In the Iroquois way of thinking, leadership was a sacred trust. Chiefs weren't chosen because they were the most powerful or ambitious. They were chosen for their wisdom and their commitment to the people. Leadership was a service, not a prize to be won. And like we saw with the clan mothers, you were always held accountable.
This is a massive challenge for any big, diverse country like the United States. How do you build unity without asking people to give up what makes them unique? Can all these different groups really thrive together?
Well, the Iroquois League gives us a powerful yes. It managed to unite all these different nations, each with its own language and culture, all under the shared vision of the Great Law. It's a beautiful example of how a common set of values, like their Great Law or, say, the U.S. Constitution, can be the very thing that knits a diverse people together.
So what does this all mean? How does knowing about this change the way we look at American history?
Now, it's really important to be clear here. This isn't about erasing the influence of European thinkers or anything like that. It's about enriching the story. It's about adding a vital and for too long forgotten chapter so we can see a more complete and honest picture of where American democracy really came from.
So if you take anything away from this, let it be these things. 1. American democracy has deep roots right here on this continent. 2. The Iroquois League wasn't some primitive system. It was a sophisticated model of federalism and public accountability. And 3. Acknowledging this just gives us a richer, more accurate story of who we are.
And in the end, digging into this relationship gives us more than just facts. It gives us these timeless lessons that can actually help us make our own democracy stronger today. We're looking to the past to find some real wisdom for our future.
And that kind of leaves you with the final thought, doesn't it? If this incredibly powerful story of democratic innovation was here this whole time, just beneath the surface, it really makes you wonder, what other histories, what other vital pieces of our story are still out there, just waiting to be told?